So we have part 1, 2, and 3 before we get to this one, that you're going to need to watch. All of these, and any one we do, you're just going to have to be in order. With the physical shapeshifting, it builds on itself. You're going to have to do these. I'm sorry, but there's no quick way around it. It's too dense of a subject. So, that being said, at the end of part 3, we talked about, okay, while you're still trying to master that, all of that we talked about in part 3, there are some things that you can do in the meantime to kind of prepare yourself for whenever you are ready. And one of those things is actually, it doesn't even really quite prepare, but you should be doing it anyway. Anytime that you are not able, that you've not mastered what we talked about in part 3. Anytime that you physically cannot shapeshift and that you're stuck as human, you need to give yourself this outlet, because there's a half of you, a big half of you, that is going to feel caged 24/7. And if you don't let that have an outlet, it's either going to explode in your face one day like mine did, or it's going to be suppressed to the point where it's just going to eat up your chakras even more, and eat up your soul even more. That you have to let yourself be yourself, both sides of you, and you can't do that when you're acting and being human. So you have to set aside a time to let that other half of you be free. That's what a mental shift is, and that is what a 100% full mental shift, this is what happens. You don't know how to walk on 2 legs anymore. You don't know how to use your fingers to grab things anymore. You don't know how to talk as a human anymore. All you can do is animal noises, literally. But that's temporary. And anyone who says otherwise is just, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm living proof it's temporary. It's only permanent if you make it permanent. If you don't have the willingness to come back to your human mind and your human conscious, then that's the only time that it's going to be permanent. Now, a lot of people find it too addicting and they stay there and they get stuck. But that's their own decision. Sometimes people get stuck also because they get way too deep for way too long. And even if they want to come back, they can't. So there's a balance to this. If you're going to do this, no more than 15 to 30 minutes, and then you have to come back out of it into your human conscious again. You'll have to set yourself into an altered state in order to do this. Typically I say, give yourself a light trance when you go into it, and also when you're getting ready to come back out, also put yourself in a light trance, because that trance is going to completely wipe away anything in your mind. You have a completely blank mind, therefore you cannot fight with your other side. Therefore, if you cannot fight with the other side, it lets the other side take over again. So put yourself in a trance, for me it's wolf, let your wolf take over. Then put wolf in trance, let human take over. That's what you're going to have to do. The trance isn't necessary, but it just helps you not fight with yourself. You cannot get stuck there permanently, because then, especially if it happens in public, you're immediately going to go to a insane asylum. And there's countless examples of that. There's even some that actual clinical patients that there are videos that you can look up and you can see what's happened to them. In the videos, they have gotten stuck there for life. And it's really sad, because they're in insane asylums for life. If you don't let this part of you be freed, like I was saying, it'll either blow up in your face or it'll be suppressed so much that it actually hinders what you're trying to achieve in part 3. It's going to hinder it even more. Because if you're not yourself, if you're not allowed to be yourself, that is only going to create this black hole-ish like scenario with the chakra or more than one potentially chakras. You need to allow yourself to be fully yourself, both halves of you, the human and the animal half. So, if you don't want to get to 100% that part where your human conscious is completely turned off, and the only conscious you've got is your animal. If you don't want to risk staying there forever, not being able to walk on two limbs, not being able to talk like a human, that sort of, if you don't want to risk that, there's another option. Vocalizations, and assuming it's a four-legged something, running on your hands and feet, not your hands and knees, but your hands and feet, very specific, for a very specific reason. The way that stuntmen and women are trained to do, sometimes you see this in movies and things, if you do it like that, as long as it's level ground, as long as it's not downhill, okay, it's got to be level or uphill. If it's unlevel or if it's downhill, you're going to go really slow, trust me. If it's really level ground, or if it's uphill, you're going to go just as fast on 2 as you do on 4. If done correctly, you have to learn the rhythm of it. You have to teach yourself that. It's not really that hard, but you do have to teach yourself that. Your legs will get a little sore if you've never done it before, but it's no big deal. So, vocalizations. You have to sound enough like it that it actually sounds like an animal, not a human trying to sound like an animal. Reason being is that it is not going to feel freeing, much like on your hands and knees. That's not going to feel freeing. You're going too slow. You've got to be on your hands and feet and feel the freeingness of being able to run just as fast on 2 as you do on 4. See what I'm saying? So it's the same way with this. And you don't really know what you sound like until you listen to yourself. So record yourself. Too many people think they sound like something, they just do not. So record yourself. And it doesn't have to be perfect completely, but it has to at least sound enough like the animal that it doesn't sound like a human trying to sound. It sounds like an actual animal of some sort, preferably as close as you can get it. And that takes a lot of practice of listening to said animal, that whatever that is, and mimicking it, and then listening back to see if you've truly done it correctly. A really easy one is growling, because almost everything in one way or another growls. Almost any species in one way or another can growl. It'll take about a week to learn, at most, maybe a couple of days. Something like howling will take, depending on how quick, how much time you spend on it, it'll take months to years. I mean, unless that's all you do is practice howling, but I mean, we don't have time in this day and age to spend that much time on it. I don't know if I mentioned this, but if it's mental shift, no less than 15 minutes, no more than 30 minutes, and then you're going to set a timer and you have to come back. You can't give yourself not 5 more minutes, not even 5 more seconds. You have to train yourself to discipline your mind to come back immediately. Either if you never do it, or you don't give yourself any restrictions on time, and you're just always doing it, no restriction. Either way, it's just a recipe for getting stuck there. That's what's so good about the vocalizations and the running our hands and feet, because you're not turning off the human conscious. You've got both consciousnesses active at the same time, and it's almost like the Incredible Hulk when he's both. He's like a mixture of both at the same time. You don't lose that control, and it still feels very freeing. But in order for it to feel freeing, you need to do it often enough and accurately enough. The next thing is phantom shift. Phantom shift, actually, I do have an entire video on phantom shift, and it's such a it's got so much depth to it that I needed to put an entire video. So you need to look up phantom shift to know exactly how to do this, because there's no way I could explain it all in this video. But basically, phantom shift is that you it's physically training you as to what you're going to do when you or as part of what you're going to do when you finally get to that point when you can physically shift. So mental shift is just giving yourself an outlet while you can't physically shift. Phantom shift is actually preparing you for when you actually do physically shift, and to some extent dream shift kind of prepares you depending on the dream, but phantom shift really prepares you for the physical act of it, because it's really similar to what you're going to do when you actually start to try to physically shift. Now phantom shift, even though the average person, say I shift claws, even though the average person is only going to see a hand, a visually clairvoyant person could literally see the claws. I mean, just because it's phantom doesn't mean it's not real. Just because you can't, the average person can't physically see it, you will physically feel it. I mean, if you phantom shift a tail, you're going to physically feel the tail. It feels so real. It's strange, but it does. It feels super real. And a visual clairvoyant could see the claws. A tactile clairvoyant could go like this and feel an energy there and feel the claws in some way. I mean, it's not invisible, and it's not, what I'm saying is it's not an invisible physical something. It's not quite physical, but it's also not just spirit by itself, because clairvoyance can actually see and touch and feel, and you can feel it. You can feel it. So that's why it's called a phantom, because it's not quite yet actually physical, but it's definitely something's there, right? So first you're going to try and shift just a little tiny piece of you, like claws, fangs, whatever. Then you're going to try to do an entire body phantom shift eventually, and that's going to get you a little more prepared for the actual physical shifting. And again, I can't explain. If you want to learn how to do the phantom shift, please look at the phantom shift video, because there's no way for me to explain it all in this video.